Hello everybody and welcome to another Darkest Dungeon mod overview. My name is ElementFive and today I have the great pleasure of showcasing the brand new mini-boss mod coming from Marvin Sayo and Claire de Lune, the Banshee. The Banshee is Claire and Marvin's formal submission for the official Darkest Dungeon Discord mini-boss contest put together by Red Hook, and my goodness is this a fun and beautiful mod. But before we get into it, this is your fair warning, there will be many spoilers ahead as I will be breaking down the fight in some detail here, going over some of my own thoughts and experiences, etc. So if you are looking to install the Banshee and would prefer to learn it yourself, turn back now. But ostensibly, most of you are here to see a breakdown of the boss fight as well as a collection of my own thoughts about this mod, and I thank you kindly for joining me on that venture, so let's get into it. The Banshee is a stress-heavy, multi-phase wheeled mini-boss fight, which is accessible on all tiers of difficulty and features custom enemies, mechanics, sounds, and some powerful trinket rewards. The fight basically surrounds the backstory of the Banshee herself, the spirit of a young woman, brutalized in life by a broken and abusive home life, an unfaithful spouse, and her own losing battle with serious mental illness. Each successive phase of the battle challenges players to adapt to different mechanics and circumstances, fighting a different set of high-prot human eldritch characters from the Banshee's backstory, all the while enduring the ear-piercing, stress-inducing ravings of the Banshee herself as she calls out to you, begging for release from her torment.
Gnawing uncertainty, the birthplace of dread.
Now, given that this is a wheeled boss, you'd be right to expect high-prot, bleed-vulnerable human eldritch enemies, and we'll talk about useful compositions and counters in a moment, but let's get into the fight itself and check out all the phases. Upon engaging the boss, the Banshee spirit will open phase 1 with tragic memories, summoning the reanimated bodies of her father and mother. The Banshee herself has 2 actions per round, carries an afflicted debuff, which is just a bit of aesthetic, and you'll note that she has 999 dodge and over 200% resistances across the board, making her literally unhittable, but only comes with 5 total HP, which should immediately tell you there's a key to this fight. Now, she will spend most of the fight in phase 1 sort of shuffling around, shuffling herself, stacking stress and horror on your party, and her abilities will change slightly in each phase. On the other hand, the unique enemies that she summons throughout the fight are very hittable and quite dangerous, and that begins with her father, which is a size 2 enemy with a decently high health pool, high prot, strong resistances, and a low bleed resistance with a whopping 3 actions per turn, during which he'll indulge his alcoholism to heal himself, buff his own damage, debuff his accuracy. He'll also occasionally abuse the mother or your characters with an ability called Know Your Place. He'll also spill and spit his ale all over your party in the form of blight, and occasionally skewer members of your party with his nasty sort of pitchfork trident.
Dazed, reeling, about to break.
The mother, on the other hand, has about half the HP pool, half the prot and resistances, and will use her single action basically to cast blights, heal herself and allies, or debuff your party. Now, upon defeating both of her parents, the Banshee will lose a single hit point for each character and immediately use Malefic Memories, beginning phase 2 and summoning the reanimated bodies of her husband and the wench. The husband, seen here holding his dead beating heart, has again high prot but only moderate resistances and only a single action, which he'll use to heal with Undying Affection or debuff your party with stomach bugs. The wench, on the other hand, has half the prot, high speed and dodge, lower bleed resist. She uses a bunch of mark and blight abilities against your team. She'll also summon random wheeled enemies into the party with her alluring pheromones, but most importantly, prioritizes a forced guard from the husband with her ability called Together Forever. Now, this is extremely important because the husband carries with him a debuff which lifelinks him to the winch, meaning that should the winch die, they both die instantly.
As the fiend falls, a faint hope blossoms.
And it's also really important to note that the Banshee's pose and sort of stature has changed in Phase 2, as well as her abilities, making her a lot more aggressive, ostensibly because of the rage induced by the betrayal by her husband with the winch, now continuing to stack stress and horror on your party, but with the included bleed, damage, and debuff abilities, Heartstealer, Kiss Goodbye, and Chilling Caress.
Ringing ears, blurred vision. The end approaches.
Once you have finally landed the killing blow on the husband and winch, the fight will immediately change to Phase 3, dealing yet another 2 hit points to the Banshee's total health pool, and triggering overwhelming remorse, summoning her physical form, the Giant Slug. The Banshee's physical form is a size 3 enemy, and the fight takes on almost a sort of 5 versus 1 feel to it, as the Banshee's tormented spirit, now close to release, will periodically target her physical form with demented stuns, marks, continuing, of course, the occasional stressful weeping. This is helpful as the physical form has a huge health pool, high prot, high resists, still low bleed resist, but feels just a bit like fighting against a mini countess. Now, once you have finally chipped away at the high prot, high health pool of the slug, you have finally beaten the boss, completed the fight, and released the Banshee spirit from her torment, and you are thus rewarded with a very welcome party de-stress and some nice loots and a powerful custom trinket.
Prodigious size alone does not dissuade the sharpened blade.
In total, there are 7 unique trinkets you can get from this boss fight, some of which are pretty powerful and even come with set bonuses. So let's just touch on each phase again real quickly and a couple things to think about in order to get through this fight with ease. Now, ordinarily, the fight is accessible through a rare curio which is found throughout the Weald, known as the Mass Grave. However, if you install the quest mod, this gives the player immediately accessible missions, the Broken Hearts mission, which allows the player to access the Banshee fight on all tiers of difficulty as its own sort of standalone boss room, similar to that you would see of like the Shrieker. So in the case that you're using the quest mod and not randomly finding her curio in the Weald as intended, all you'll need to bring with you for this fight is the very basic provisions you would utilize for any boss fight, and in this case includes anti-venom and bandages for the incoming dot damage, herbs to remove some of the painful debuffs, holy water to help buff resistances, and of course, because this is a Marvin Sayo mod, laudanum. And I kid you not, laudanum and horror removal are quite valuable in this fight. Now on phase 1, it is clear that the father is your primary issue, especially on champion, where his damage output can just get a bit out of control in combination with his multiple turns per round and his high survivability. The mother feels sort of like a pushover to me, and I think she's sort of made to feel that way thematically. She does heal and do some annoying things. She is about twice as easy to kill, I think, than the father, so it is tempting to kind of take her out of the battle quickly, but I think ultimately the father's output is just too much to handle, and if you can stack some nice juicy bleeds on him, they'll tick pretty fast on each of those multiple actions per round. On that note, armor piercing should be a gimme with his high prot, not to mention any sort of advantage that you can get against enemies that are size 2. Now, once you've reached phase 2, the tempo swings a bit as it becomes very clear that the winch is the primary target, both because of her summoning ability, but also because the husband is life-linked to her, as killing her also ends the round immediately and kills everything else. However, she's just hard to access given that she forces guard by the husband. So thankfully the husband has moderate to low stun resist, so stuns could, open up that guard. And if you're using something which reaches far ranks, breaks guards, that will also typically make short work of her. And while you certainly can chip away at the husband's health and then finally get to the wench, and that might be less of a gamble on champion, much of the fight in round 2, I think, is largely in enduring the more aggressive stance and abilities of the Banshee herself. Finally, phase 3, I think, is simply kind of a race against the stress and damage of both Banshee forms. You've endured both of the prior phases. You're probably not at full health. You've probably racked up some pretty decent stress. So it is time to really capitalize on bleed synergies, damage versus size 2, armor piercing, riposte, and do as well as you can to chip away at her health pool. And do keep in mind that party position might become an issue given the kind of shuffle you might see. But once you do get her down, you'll obviously be rewarded with that huge stress heal. And so to get to that point, I think, is why this feels a bit of a race. One of the really brilliant things about this fight, I think, in total, is the fact that overall, you have to take stress seriously, and any attempt to sort of stall in any phase of this fight will just severely punish you with horrors the size of something like 20/5. It's really worth taking characters with off-heal abilities, just given how much damage can spread here with all of the dots, how many turns some of these enemies have, or at least to have some AoE healing against all of that damage. Therefore, I tried slightly different party comps on each tier of difficulty, and while I think there are some serious MVPs in the Weald and on this fight, characters like the Hellion, the Flag, etc., by far, I think the most useful hero, in my opinion, has to be the Shield Breaker, and the group I ended up doing the best with, interestingly, was a Vestal, Man-at-Arms, Shield Breaker, and Highwayman combo. The Vestal for the stuns and AoE heals, the stun being really nice in round 2. The Man-at-Arms with the battle-long buffs, guard against the champion damage, riposte definitely didn't hurt. The Shield Breaker is just a no-brainer here, with the ability to prevent guard, to reach all ranks, the armor piercing, the shuffle immunity, and then finally the Highwayman, also some shuffle immunity, some bleed synergy there, but then, trading some back and forth damage with the Shield Breaker, adding in some riposte with Duelist Advance. That's going to do it for this brief overview of the Banshee mini-boss mod. Huge congratulations to Marvin and Claire for delivering such a super fun and polished mod, and a big thank you for including me as a developer on this project in order to allow me to test and showcase it, and a big thank you to Red Hook for such a fantastic game, for supporting the modding community, and putting together such a thoughtful and worthwhile contest. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe for more content and all things Darkest Dungeon. May all your hits be crits, and we'll see you next time.